All right, number 13, any conduct on or off duty that reflects unfavorably on the county as an employer, and something else. That's all it says on that page. Again, very broad, catch-all language.
Ms. Jones even admitted to these catch-all ones, any conduct on or off duty, any conduct or action. She said that, she admitted that was that catch-all. So what specifically was he accused of?
Well, I believe this again refers specifically to having made affairs with
Yeah.
thing. And my opinion is the same on this. I believe we shouldn't act that way. We should have known we shouldn't act this way, but there wasn't a specific policy in place. I believe that by actively getting into those relationships, not just one time, over a period of time, a long period of time with one, a shorter period of time with one, at least one or both may have been probationary employees at least part of that time. One was definitely, and I believe we heard the testimony that the other one was at the beginning too. But I do believe that if people knew about it, and again, you don't know who knows what, but I think that would reflect unfavorably on the county. Not because of it violates a policy, but because it's not the right thing to do. And if you've gone through any kind of sexual harassment education, I think most of us have at some point in our, and they're going to talk about this sort of thing. We didn't get into the specifics of what we discussed that day, but I cannot imagine a presentation along those lines that does not include that sort of information
in there. But you know what hangs me up on that is in their own, they all admit that stuff like this goes on. I mean, well, if he's guilty of it, then half the department is guilty of it. So
They had like an internal policy of no policy.
right, so why would we think that that conduct from him is detrimental?
I hear you.
And-
It seems like selective enforcement.
And they sit there and say, well, this one goes with this one, and this one goes with this one. I mean, it's not only him, it's half the beach patrol.
We need to put somebody in charge about every 15 minutes. They pop up and say, cut that out.
Yeah.
I don't think that the question isn't about what all the rest of them are doing. Two wrongs don't make a right, and it doesn't talk about policy. It says that it reflects unfavorably on the county as an employer, and I think that it did, myself.
Well, I think that I have to disagree with that, that's all.
Well, I go back to the discussion that was brought up of people who are hired into these departments who this may be their first job that they've ever had. They could be 16 years old, coming into this kind of an environment. And I don't know that it was half the people, but if it's a couple of people and everybody knows about it and sweeps it under the rug or just agrees not to talk about it, I think there is an understanding that there's a problem there. And I don't like it. I don't think it's good for the department. I don't think it's good for the county. I think they need to be firmly, by virtue of policy, opposed to it. It didn't occur in this case, but in theory, they should.
I think that they will, and I think you're going to see a change in the operation down there. We've got a different person in charge of it, and I think you will see those changes made for the betterment of the department and the betterment of the employees. But there's not right now, but it's coming.
But it leaves us with a specific violation that's been alleged by the county. What do we do with it?
Well, let me ask you,
Please.
are we discussing morality here? I mean, are we discussing morality? I'm just not catching great this month, help me.
Well,
The way the county's got worded, it's any conduct.
Well, I'm not talking about morality. I'm talking about the political savvy within an organization like this for a senior officer to go out with a probationary employee.
I know that it doesn't, it usually doesn't bode well, but there's no policy against it, is
That's a good question. And if it's difficult appointment to one, that is illustrative.
I mean, I know it doesn't bode well, and to me, it doesn't make sense for it to occur. But if there's no hard and fast rule, you know, on the idea of him dating someone below him in the chain of command.
Well,
I mean, are we making a moral decision there? You know, are we?
I tell you where I'm coming down, it's a huge exposure.
Exposure to
Liability
liability.
exposure, absolutely. And there's no ambiguity there. It's hanging your laundry out to dry pretty importantly in that regard.
I don't have a policy against robbing a bank, but I wouldn't think it'd be right for them to go out and rob a bank. So, you know, I just don't think it's favorable.
But that's illegal.
And immoral.
Well, it depends on if you're imposing your Judeo-Christian beliefs on whether it's immoral. But what I mean,
Number 13.
that's the matter that we're discussing is,
We've got to be able to come to some pointed decisions on this one.
Somebody make a motion, we'll make a vote.
Do it.
Okay, I move on item 13, that we sustain item 13 under section 86-453.
Your second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor of the motion, vote by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
No.
Declare that motion to pass 3-2. Is that correct? If I else get that
I
same
think that's what it was.
count?
There you go.
All right. Number 21, subsection 21, any other in conduct or action, sweet, maybe get more, can't get more, maybe it does. Any other conduct or action of such seriousness that disciplinary action is considered warranted.
It's another one of those things that if you didn't cover it up there, you got it right here. So,
I move that we not sustain item 21, section 86-453. I don't know of any other conduct that was seriousness that this one actually is considered warranted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion, any discussion under this subsection 21? All of our thoughts apply to a lot of these, so I understand the lack of discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Section 86-45, subsection A, code of conduct. I'm going to read it anyway. Employees of the county government are employed to provide services to citizens of the county and to the public in general and are expected to conduct themselves in a manner that will reflect credit on the county government, public officials, fellow employees, and themselves. Employees must avoid any action that should not result in or creates the impression of using public office for private gain, giving preferential treatment to any person, or losing impartiality in conducting public business. There is some specificity there, which is a relief in one respect. I believe that there was a loss of impartiality, at least in the perception of a couple of people. I don't believe it rose to the point of being a poor employee overall in terms of the public performance of the job. But there again, the impartiality may have clouded that judgment, the way he handled this gun issue, and reporting that or not reporting it. I don't know. It seems like it did. He may have acted the same way that somebody he had no relationship with. That's not the case. He did have a relationship.
He did get preferential treatment.
He said he didn't embarrass her.
Yeah.
And he might not have wanted to embarrass anybody. I don't know.
Everything that I heard about the captain, I think reflected credit on the county government. Just everybody that came in here said what a fine job the man did.
Well, I would disagree in saying that, again, I don't believe that letting your